Oh, no, yes, we are. We're... Hello and welcome to Red Barn Radio. I'm Brad Becker, the host of our program. Red Barn Radio is now in its 18th broadcast season, and this is program number 696. What? What? Could that be? To keep our staff and our musical guests safe, we will continue to abide by state and local guidelines concerning cleanliness and personal protective equipment. For now, our Wednesday performances will take place without a live in-studio audience. Now, folks, please welcome to the Red Barn stage the Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio. Give me a hand.
Good evening, and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to the music of Kentucky. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau. More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. Lex Arts, Lexington, Kentucky's Arts Council, creating a great American city inspired by the arts. Chef Greg Scott and Broussard's Delta Kitchen, featuring authentic flavors of New Orleans and the Mississippi Delta on Main Street in historic Georgetown, Kentucky. Broussard's is on Facebook. And AccuPrint, providing printing, design, and fulfillment. Online at accuprint.us. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter, and hopefully like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
On the Red Barn stage tonight are the Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio. Will's a 19-year-old guitarist from Lexington, Kentucky. He began playing guitar in 8th grade after going through multiple other instruments. He's earned multiple jazz-related awards, including being selected for the KMEA All-State Jazz Band twice, and also being selected to participate in the National Young Arts Jazz Program. Will's now going into his sophomore year at the University of North Texas, where he is majoring in jazz studies. With Will tonight on stage are Ryan McGillicuddy on bass and Paul Deatherage on drums. Please welcome the Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio back to the Red Barn stage.
Was called Love Letters. That tune that we just played was called Love Letters. It was written by Victor Young in 1945 for a movie by the same name. Next we're going to play a tune of mine called Will's Samba, and it's a samba that I wrote. And it was written in 2018, maybe 2019, and it is what we will play next. Okay. So that was my tune, Will's Samba. Next, we're gonna play a song called Stardust, written by Hoagie Carmichael in 1927. This is one of the most recorded songs in the history of songs, and we're going to play it now.
Well, hello, folks watching and listening. You're listening to Red Barn Radio, and tonight we are featuring a terrific jazz trio showcasing the guitar prowess of Will Peters-Seymour. Joining Will are Ryan McGillicuddy and Paul Deatherage back here, and those guys are both teaching their instruments now, I think, and but also have an impressive set of experience, body of experience as performers and session players and whatnot. And we'll be talking to them too this evening. Will,
Yes.
great to have you here.
It's good to have you
And
here.
I've been so looking forward to this. And I was kind of curious to know, before we get into your history, is this the first and only tune that you have written, the tune you played earlier, Will Samba?
No, I have a couple more, maybe 3 or 4 more. Not a huge body of material.
Yeah, well, that's all right. 3 or 4
Yeah.
is pretty good for now. And is it your intention to compose more stuff in time?
I would love to. I mean, yeah, I still feel like I'm not qualified to compose yet, but I don't know. I think everybody feels that way.
I suppose so.
I don't know. It doesn't come as naturally to me as other things in this music. So I would love to keep doing it, and I will keep doing it, but I'm only going to play the ones that I'm happy with.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
They're
that's,
like 2.
That's fair. All right, so hey, what was the first instrument that you played? You said in your bio that you ended up at guitar after you worked through a few other instruments. What did you start with?
I started on violin, actually.
Oh, you did. And did you do that because your parents said to you, Will, you will mow the lawn this summer and you will take violin lessons?
It was more like I think it was that I had confused the kitchen utensil spoons with a violin and bow. And was playing them like a violin a lot, and I don't even know if I knew what one sounded like, but I knew what it looked like when you played one, so I was like, okay, I think I need one of those. So we got like a little refrigerator magnet that looked like a violin, and I like played on that, but it didn't make any noise, and then we got a real one.
Oh, good. I imagine the real one was more satifying than the refrigerator
I don't.
magnet
It
one.
probably was, but I don't remember.
and then between the refrigerator magnet and guitar, what other instruments did you play?
I played saxophone, a piano first, actually. I played piano first, and then saxophone, and then ended up on guitar.
All right. And so when you did saxophone, was it pretty rudimentary? How long did you work with it?
I think I was in the school band. Actually, I see here that Miss Hurst is in the chat.
Oh, very nice.
And she was my saxophone teacher. Although I don't think she actually she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she played saxophone. But she was like the director of our band. So I mean, I was really bad, and I like yeah. Yeah, I was not good, and I kind of, I don't know, it didn't interest me that much, and I'm kind of sad about that, because if I had just like listened to jazz even once, I might have started playing as a 5th grader, and I might be a lot better than I am now. So.
Yeah, right. You mean you might have gotten deeper into
Yeah,
it, taken
I
a
could have
deeper dive
started
with
on
that
saxophone.
instrument.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's an amazing thing, music teachers, right? I mean, and I'm always astounded that they can sort of show you the fundamentals of all instruments. And most astounding too is that they always make you feel good about trying it.
Yeah, if we're gonna talk about music teachers, my true teacher is also in the chat, Tim Fowler.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and I have to
good.
thank him for most of the things that I can do. So.
Well, good. We will give you a chance to talk more about Tim. Hey, Tim, nice to have you here. So, let's see. So, when you started, when you got into guitar, though, you didn't dive into the jazz direction. You started off doing what a lot of sort of younger players want to do. You wanted to sort of shred.
Yeah, I wanted
sort of the idea?
I wanted to play rock and metal, and it I don't know. It felt like a natural progression from there to jazz, I guess. It went from metal to gypsy jazz to straight ahead jazz. I think is the trajectory.
Okay, I can see that progression, but I wasn't quite sure if I knew what it would be up until then, till you told me. When you were doing heavy metal and that sort of thing, were you learning from videos? Were you learning from a teacher online? Was it an interactive experience, or were you just watching?
I had a Skype teacher who lived in Australia.
Oh, come on!
Who I took metal guitar lessons from, and he's like a big metal YouTuber. And I just reached out to him and asked if I could take lessons. And he was great for me. I mean, he taught like all of the technique that most of the technique that I have now is from those days. And I say most, I've lost a lot of it. I can't play as fast as I used to be able to. But I could probably rectify that if it was like high on my list of priorities.
So you're talking about mostly right hand?
Yeah, I mean I think my right hand's changed a lot. And I don't know how like specific we want to get into the technical talk, but like, do it. Okay. I mean, I started out with holding my pick very differently than I do between these two fingers like this. And I would do things like right, and like all up and down the neck, and then I do different shapes. And I still do a lot of that now because I started working on my technique again like a year ago.
And is that and those things that your Australian teacher got you into?
He taught me modes. He taught me my major scales, all my major scales. So I still use them all the time. I don't know, now my right hand's a lot softer, and it's very loose, or at least hopefully it's very loose. And I kind of went full circle. I did like a little 180 from alternate picking a lot to using a lot of legato. So just,
And so did your teacher Tim, who's with us here, is he someone who directed you to develop some other right-hand techniques?
Not particularly. He was more like whatever I did, he would kind of like show me what to do next with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm very thankful to him because he never made me do anything. Like I didn't, and he might disagree with that. Maybe he did and I just had no idea. But like I didn't, there were things he would, I think the thing that he did that was most helpful was every day would be something new. And I would never know why it was useful. And then I wouldn't practice it, and then like 6 months later, I'd be like, "Holy crap! Tim was talking to me about that 3 months. I should have listened to him when he was talking to me about it." But then I could just go back to him and ask him about it, and then we would talk about it.
Nice. He sounds like a great teacher.
Yeah, he was great.
It sounds like he used the time-tested teacher trick.
Yeah.
Which is coaxing people into learning things.
Yeah, exactly.
Not shoving it down their throat, and that works especially well with music when you're doing
Yeah.
something that. Doesn't necessarily have a career attached to it, doesn't necessarily have money attached to it.
Right. Well, he had the opportunity to completely stifle any love I had for music, and he didn't do it. So I appreciate that.
Were you familiar with jazz before you started playing it?
Yeah.
And
My dad is a lover of jazz, like a very, very deep lover of jazz, and so is my mom, because she'll get mad at me if I don't say that.
Oh, sure.
But no, they both love jazz, but my dad hipped me to everything that I know, pretty much. All the musicians I love are his favorite musicians.
Oh, interesting. So were his jazz tastes generally what you would call traditional, or did he have a wide range of tastes?
I think he would say it's very straight ahead, very traditional, but not like New Orleans kind of like second line stuff. More in the like he's super into the like cool jazz stuff and the really swinging. He just doesn't like anything that's too like cheesy.
Okay.
So when he says traditional, he means nothing cheesy. So like Bill Evans, Brad Meldau, Keith Jarrett, Sonny Rollins, Sonny Stitt, all those guys. Like
all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So
do you know what it was that attracted you to jazz? So before you ever started to work with Tim Fowler, what was it that attracted you to the form? Was it that you felt it was going to be more challenging than what you'd done before?
I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be more challenging.
If you knew it was going to be, would you have gone into it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember the specific moment where I was hooked. I was at school and I was listening to Sonny Ron's recording of St. Thomas, like super famous record, the record Saxophone Colossus, and he does this thing that every jazz musician does where I remember he like targeted the third of a certain chord, and I just like when he played like the C sharp or whatever it was, I don't know why, but that note just like really resonated with me, and that was when I was like, I got to figure that out.
Well, it's already sort of an interesting story. I'm picturing you in middle school, sitting back and
This was
listening
probably
to
high
Sonny
school.
Rollins. Okay, yeah.
At this was like sophomore year maybe.
Okay,
Sophomore
and
year.
and is that about the time that you started with Tim?
I started with Tim October of sophomore year.
Okay, gotcha.
He probably doesn't even know that.
when you so when you were playing rock and thinking along the lines of rock, did you view at that time you said your dad listened to it a lot? Did you view it as sort of the abstract form that it is? Because that's kind of how I differentiate rock and jazz. Is I think of rock as being kind of about simple ideas in a straightforward way. It's like he doesn't love me anymore,
Right.
or
I mean, I can't remember specifically. I just remember it. Jazz like felt really good, and it felt good, and I'd finally figured out that I don't know. Especially gypsy jazz really resonated with me early on. A lot of the same harmonic stuff as metal kind. I mean, not a lot of it, but harmonic minor scales everywhere. So I don't know. It felt very natural for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so do you do any of that stuff on acoustic? When I think about a lot of that music, I think about some of that as being sort of done with a hollow body acoustic, or
Yeah.
not a lot of amplification, more about rhythm and percussion.
Yeah, I never got a gypsy jazz guitar because I didn't know that wasn't. There was never a time when that was really what I wanted to do. But I would fake it on my acoustics at home.
Uh-huh.
They have a very specific technique that I can't do at all. So.
But is it your goal to learn that? And
Probably not.
Really?
I mean, no, I don't know. I'm not super. It's pretty much like if you learn that technique, then you play gypsy jazz, and there's not much use for it with what I do.
Okay, so you people who play that form stick with that form.
I mean, it's kind of I don't know. I think it's pretty sacred for them. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It might not be, but it feels like it is.
Well, you never know. Maybe you'll end up doing some of that. I've heard you and others liken learning jazz to learning a language. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
Can you say something about that?
Yeah. I mean, I really think that if I had known that was what it was before, I like when I started, that would have been really helpful for me because it really is. I mean, it is the most apt comparison that I've ever heard. I mean, because you have your you have words like we have, like the best thing that I've ever heard anybody say about it was that when you and I speak to each other, we're not improvising words as we speak. We're improvising the order that they're in, you know. And that's kind of what jazz is. Like nothing that I'm going to play today is going to be something that I've never conceived of before today. Like I've thought about most of it. Not exactly what I'm going to play, but most of the material is stuff that I've heard before because it's in my ear. It's in my, I have it under my fingers. It's just what order I'm going to put it in.
Yeah. So that way of thinking about music and that way of playing that language, can that be ported over to very well to other music forms, or will the really good jazz guitar player, is he always going to sound like a jazz guitar player whether he's playing rock or bluegrass?
I would say a really, really good jazz guitar player could always sound like a jazz player, or it could not always sound like a jazz player. I mean, I would always sound like a jazz player. I wouldn't be able to fake it very well. But I know some other people at UNT are like can do everything like very professionally. They could play rock and you would have no idea that they played jazz for the most part.
Will mentioned UNT, which is University of North Texas, which is where he is pursuing a degree in jazz studies. We'll talk more with you in a little bit, and also meet Ryan and Paul. And but I'd like to get back to some more music now.
Yeah, sure.
Let's welcome back Will Peters-Seymour and his jazz trio.
1 and 3. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was a tune called Origin, written by Sonny Rollins in 1957. It's called Origin because it's Nigeria backwards. I don't know why it's called the tune, but whatever. Next, we're going to play Emily by Johnny Mandel. It was written in 1964. One, two, three.
Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio on Red Barn Radio tonight. Red Barn Radio is brought to you with the help of Chef Greg Scott and Broussard's Delta Kitchen, featuring authentic flavors of New Orleans and the Mississippi Delta. On Main Street in historic Georgetown, Kentucky, Broussard's is also on Facebook. We're also brought to you by AccuPrint, providing printing, design, and fulfillment. Online at accuprint.us. And now welcome back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program. Red Barn Radio is coming to you live from the Performance Hall at Arts Place. We are on all social media platforms. Please welcome back to the Red Barn stage the Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio.
That was a Thelonious Monk tune called Ask Me Now. It was written in 1963, and I think first debuted on his album Solo Monk, if I'm correct. But I could be wrong. Next we're going to do a tune called The Eternal Triangle, and I think it's a Dizzy Gillespie tune, but it could also be a Sonny Stitt tune. But it's definitely not a Sonny Rollins tune, even though he's on that album that tune is on. But it's definitely one of the other two. So we're gonna play The Eternal Triangle. This is it's a rhythm changes, but with a weird bridge with some chromatic 2/5 stuff going on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
I don't know why I cheered.
Nice job. Wow. That was great.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that, Paul. Hey, Will, when we were talking last, we were discussing, what were we discussing? Oh, how jazz as a form sort of ports over to other kinds of music that you might want to play. I guess what I was wondering about too, and I'm thinking that there are maybe other guitarists out there who are asking this, if you want to play jazz, is it critical that you learn how to read music?
No, I don't think. I mean, I don't think it's critical. I mean, jazz is, you can get everything by ear, but I mean, it always helps to be able to learn music if you want to play people's original music and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's super helpful to be able to know how to read. I'm not gonna pretend to be a great sight reader, but I work on it.
Yeah, is that
So-
something? So I would imagine though, in the course of studying music formally, that they're going to have to drag you through that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already begun being dragged. So yeah.
Are they dragging you kicking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Say, talk about improv a little bit. What in theater, there are rules for improv. I can't really think of any, but
Like
one at the
always
moment.
say
Well, like
yes.
always say yes, no, or
Yeah.
never ask yes, no questions,
Right.
That kind of thing. What are some rules, or are there similar rules in improving as a musician?
I think there's probably an equivalent sort of rule in jazz improvisation at the very basic level. The way that sort of improvisational rule is probably not how like the best improvisers in acting, they don't probably use those rules. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there are rules that beginners use, like play the form exactly how it is, like we've been doing this whole time. But like on Stardust, when they stopped playing, I wasn't necessarily playing the form or anything. I was just kind of playing.
Do you play these tunes, the tunes you're playing tonight?
Yeah.
Are there any of these tunes that you're playing tonight that you will play exactly the same way if you play it tomorrow night?
No.
Okay, no.
Definitely not. They'll probably be pretty similar though, especially if it's with the same band. I mean, sometimes something magical happens, or sometimes something terrible happens, and
Sure.
But usually it's every. I mean, the problem is that I'm still in a place where I stay in my comfort zone, and I'd like to break out of that at some point. But right now, I usually stay in my comfort zone. I do what I can do.
Well, yeah, it's your comfort zone, but
Yeah.
it sounds vast to those of us listening. So
Yeah, that's
sounds
one of
like-
the problems with.
with playing for rookies. You
No,
mean?
no, not at all. Just that. Like, I'll never think that what I can do is vast because I understand it. Like, I'll never surprise myself, or at least not maybe, but I'll never surprise myself the way that somebody else can surprise me.
Yeah.
Even somebody who might not be as good as I am, has different things than I do.
So yeah, who are some of the players, that do things that you find really interesting? Think of maybe somebody who's sort of been around for a long time, or maybe has passed, and then somebody more recent.
I think I mean, Julian Lage is the guy on guitar that nobody understands.
Talking
Like,
recent now.
Yeah, right. Like Julian Lage, it's like what that guy can do on guitar is not possible.
He's the guy who plays jazz on a he plays a Telecaster, right?
Yeah, I mean, he really, there's no use trying to be him. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like it's just pleasant, like common folk like me will never
Okay, so
be able to play like him.
okay, so
he's
hold on
like
now.
he's like
Let's talk about let's say Julian Lage is playing a very simple tune, just a straight ahead simple tune.
Yeah.
He's not going wild on it. He's not super fast on it. What is it that he's going to do that you would want to emulate?
if he's not doing anything crazy, then probably just his touch on the instrument, just like the way he touches the instrument.
Yeah, with right or left hand or both.
Both,
Yeah.
just like his sound projects a lot, and he never like his notes are never like dead. You know, they always like sing,
Nice.
but mine don't. So
So he says. Yeah. So talk. And how about somebody who's been around longer?
I
Not a
mean,
player.
I
Or
don't
is
know.
Julian Lage the person that you find yourself listening to a lot?
No.
Okay.
I think I was gonna go back and rectify my answer just because I don't listen to him very much, but he is the guy that blows my mind the most.
Yeah.
I mean my main, I think Kurt Rosenwinkel is like my main sound influence. Like I want to sound like him.
I
but
don't know
not-
who he is. Who
He's very deep into the like straight ahead jazz side. Like I didn't know who he was for a long time, but if you play jazz guitar, you know about him. He's like the father of modern jazz guitar.
Oh, wow.
Besides maybe Pat Metheny, but
Huh.
I want to sound like him, but not as badly as I used to. Because like earlier this year, I was like obsessed, but now there are other people that I.
But that's a good sign. That says to me that you're
Yeah.
getting into playing the way you play.
Yeah.
Which is good. So take us real quickly. I also want to talk to the other guys. Take
Yeah.
us real quickly through a day at real, conservative or not conservative, but professional music school. How does that work?
Usually, my day,
Yeah.
I would wake up before class, right before class.
So your class is 7 o'clock. You'd wake up at like 6:30.
No, like 9. Class would start at 9, and I would be up at like 8:56.
Okay. All right. Good.
No shower.
Class is.
Shower later in the day if you can get to it.
Okay. Good.
I would go to classes, whatever classes I had that day, and then I would usually go to the practice rooms in between my breaks in classes and try to get like 30 minutes in if I could. I would try to get like 30 minutes in if I could, and then I would go to my next class, and then eventually I'd have to go eat at the cafeteria, which was gross. I know you don't want to hear about that part, but
No, but I'm kind of curious the routine, but especially sort of the regimen, the regimen that you have to go through in terms of your curriculum and.
yeah,
what's
most of it's
expected of you there.
most of it, all of my classes were music classes. So I took aural skills like sight singing and solfege. I took theory classes. I took a lab band. I mean, it was an ensemble. I was in the guitar ensemble.
Yeah.
And then, so guitar ensemble, and then I had private lessons.
And that's all part of what's expected
Yeah,
of
I have
everybody.
to do all this stuff. There's other stuff I can't remember.
Yeah, that's okay. And so as in most music schools, you have to make a choice to either pursue a track of teaching or a track of performance. Is that how it goes at your
Yeah,
school?
I mean, there's music ed, and then there's
Yeah.
performance, or in my case, jazz studies.
Gotcha.
So I mean, but it's it's all the same.
Well, look, I'll
I mean,
tell you
it's
what.
not, but-
There's so much I want to talk about because
Yeah,
I
of
know so little about what you do, but I do want to talk to the guys
Yeah, of
who
course,
you
yeah.
brought with you here too.
You should. They're very
Let's.
good.
Why don't we start with Paul? Paul Deatherage is playing drums, and Paul, as I think I remember hearing you say that you, or seeing in your bio that you've done some marching band stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, was that high school years for you?
Yeah, I did marching band through high school and through undergrad at Tennessee Tech University.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, and so you learned what in the course of doing marching band that you bring to jazz?
Rudiments and hand-foot coordination.
You've just said a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's fairly significant in drumming, I would say. Both of the things you just mentioned.
Yeah, just being in front of people playing.
Oh,
When I was younger, I had a really terrible time with stage fright.
huh.
So having to march for a whole stadium full of people was a little unnerving at times.
Yeah, I would think what would be unnerving is just that massive wall of sound around you. But for you, it was really thinking about making a mistake or thinking about missing a turn or something.
On a bad day.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, eventually they rehearse so much. Typically marching bands rehearse so much that those sorts of things get ironed out. But yeah, that was certainly a thing going through my mind, especially in high school.
Huh. You're a beautiful player, and we were talking touch. Wow, your touch on the drums. I mean, just to see you the way you sort of glance off a cymbal or brush off of a snare, it's pretty fantastic to watch.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, really, really enjoy it. I'd like for Ryan to join in on this as well. So you were talking about, it's really interesting to me that you said that performance was important to you as a marching band person. When I was thinking earlier, I don't really see jazz players. I see jazz players as players more than I see them as performers. And I don't know why that is. Is it maybe because you're all just sort of stationary, more or less?
Well, yeah, I think jazz tends to be more of a listener's art form than it does a visual. But I'll say this too: it's I've seen some groups that I really admire. One that comes to mind is Ari Honig's group. When I watch his group play, he's a fabulous modern drummer. When I watch actually another North Texas grad.
Yeah.
But when I watch his group play, it takes it to another level of where it is when you just listen to it on a recording. It's that much more thrilling. And we played like a Monk tune earlier. And one of the things about Monk is now we have the benefit of YouTube. And if you watch Monk performing, well, he'll leave these big swaths of space in his solos. And if you're just listening to a live recording, you're thinking, oh, well, Monk has decided to lay out and just be introspective and listen to the rest of the group. But if you watch the YouTube video, Monk has decided to get up and dance for a few rounds, and then he comes back and he plays some more. So there is a lot happening visually, but it does tend to be more of kind of an introspective art form, I believe.
I don't mean to interrupt or anything.
No, that's all right.
I had somebody say to me that visuals impeded his listening. And I disagree. I agree with you, because sometimes, like, especially with drummers, I'll see them do something and then notice it. Just because I'm just not as attuned to listening to the separate parts of the drum set. But I'll like see a drummer do something and then I'll notice it. But I don't know. Other people I think would rather just listen to it. But I don't know.
Do you think that jazz? So do you think that jazz needs help developing a young audience?
I think, of course, it does. Yeah, but I think we can really pigeonhole jazz into being one thing. And when I think of my favorite jazz groups, like one of my favorite jazz groups is this group called Kneebody. Kneebody is what we might call a jazz fusion group, but to the average listener who's never really gotten into, say, Miles Davis or anybody like that, they might find them more akin to almost like heavy metal jazz. It's almost a very rock infused type of a sound. So there are what I would say niche audiences out there, and I can think of a whole slew of jazz musicians who kind of cross over into other art forms. One drummer that comes to mind is this Lewis Cole. Do you know Lewis Cole? So Lewis Cole he's an outstanding drummer, but he has jazz chops as well. There's a lot of my favorite musicians, regardless of genre, have some sort of jazz chops happening. And I don't want to ramble on too much, but kind of like Will, I got my start playing jazz when I went to North Texas. I was really into heavy metal and rock, and I just wanted to become a better musician because I knew that all the greatest musicians that I admired had some jazz knowledge. And I thought, well, this seems to be the best way of becoming a better musician. And I found that to be true, but along the way, I ended up getting really into kind of roots in traditional jazz and swing and straight ahead jazz. But I mean, I love it all. I mean, there's a lot of great music out there, but we don't always call it jazz, I think.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, so you guys both teach, and I'm kind of curious to know, do the young people you work with, do they say to you, hey, I want to play like, what'd you call it, Kneebody?
Yeah.
I want to play some of their music. Or do they say they want to go that way, or do you get a mix?
I think, very much I get a mix where I teach, but, there's always, like when I was a student, there was always like the group of the day that we really admired and we wanted to sound like. I'm dating myself, but back when I was in college, it was really a group like Medeski, Martin, and Wood, which is this kind of organ trio, hip-hop type of a group. Right. But now I would say, maybe not now, but like 5 or 6 years ago, yet another North Texas band, Snarky Puppy, was kind of the group of the day. And I get a lot of students even today saying, oh, man, can we play some Snarky Puppy? Or they want to sound like that group. Not necessarily when it comes to trying to sound like Will was talking about, trying to sound like a particular instrumentalist, they're not thinking about the particular instrument. Well, sometimes they are. Sometimes they're thinking of Mike League or, Corey Henry or whoever it is in the group. But a lot of times, they'll pick a group and be like, oh, we're just really into this, know. And
sure.
So I don't know. I'd have to ask. Will probably has his finger on the pulse of what the young people are listening today. But
Well, any chance before the evening's out that you might slam your guitar down or throw it out to the audience or light it up with lighter fluid or anything like that?
I don't. Probably not.
Okay. All right.
Not
Well, I
tonight.
just wanted to ask it.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, we are talking with Will Peters-Seymour and Paul Deatherage and Ryan McGillicuddy. They are the Will Peters-Seymour Trio. We're so glad you all could join us this evening, and there's more music to come, so give them a big hand, the Will Peters-Seymour Trio.
Sorry about that. That was a tune called The Nearness of You by Hoagie Carmichael. It was written in 1938. And next we're going to play a tune by Miles Davis called Boplicity. Where do you want to do it? Yeah.
All right. We would like to thank Will, Ryan, and Paul, the Will Peters-Seymour Jazz Trio, for being with us this evening. We also thank our volunteers and staff for their help in making our production happen each and every week. Thank you all for listening to our webcast, watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and all the rest, and those listening to us on the Red Barn network of stations. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Your chance to hear more great live Kentucky music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU. Red Barn Radio, roots music, Southern style. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall, here in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our guests and our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. Next week on the Red Barn stage, we've got Walter DeBar. Walter is not a man who's ever played by the rules. His music, drawing upon both punk and gospel influences and the West Virginia landscapes of his youth, is both emotionally heart-wrenching and restorative. Join our live stream as we host Walter DeBar and his band next Wednesday on Red Barn Radio. And now we ought to go to the throng of people on social media and ask, would they like to hear another tune from these guys? Yes. Oh my God, it's going to explode the television. Unplug it. Let's hear some more from the Will Peters-Seymour Trio.
Where do we want to do it? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, Paul Deatherage, Ryan McGillicuddy, and Will Peters-Seymour, the Will Peters-Seymour Trio. That's all from Red Barn Radio for this week. You can see and hear us worldwide as we stream live on the web on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram Wednesdays, 7 p.m. in North America. Be sure to check out all of our social media for all updates to our upcoming schedule. And now from all of us here at Red Barn Radio to all of our friends worldwide, it is our hope you have a great week and keep working together to stay safe and healthy. Until next time, good night from all of us here at Red Barn Radio.